Video game length has been a source of contention for years, and one of the newest targets of this argument is none other than Spider-Man 2. Recently, an account on Twitter posted about their playthrough of the game, saying it only takes 15 hours to beat the main story and 30 hours to 100% the game. An outcry was heard from the gaming community, a line was drawn in the sand, and people had to pick a side. Was this too short to justify the $70 price tag, or is this enough content to be worth your hard-earned dollars? Well, firstly, anyone who is taking this random on the internet's word as gospel needs to do a bit of more digging. This account is probably fake. They have a lot of bot-like posts that don't quite make a lot of sense, and this might just be a channel to create drama. Heck, the embargo on the game doesn't even lift until the week the game comes out, so either this guy is about to face a hefty lawsuit from Sony, or he's lying through his teeth. However, this sparked an interesting question. How long does Spider-Man 2 need to be to justify its cost? Let's take a look at Insomniac is known for making single-player, action-adventure, story-driven games with tons of side content to explore in richly creative worlds. Their Spider-Man series is no different. It is a story-driven game. It is not an open-world RPG like most Bethesda games or the most recent Legend of Zelda entries. It is not a first-person shooter where you drop into multiplayer lobbies over and over again, which means it won't necessarily be a game you can dump hundreds of hours into, unless you feel like replaying the same story multiple times through. But simply because it's more focused on the narrative doesn't mean there won't be things to do around the ever-expanding map. In the first game, there were a total of 10 multi-layered side missions and 9 different districts to unlock, each with their own list of tasks to complete in order to 100% the game. When not focused on the story, you were tasked with stopping robbers, kidnappers, gangs, private military, and escaped inmates. You had to take down warehouses full of criminals. You had to participate in this incredibly annoying game show hosted by the worst side character in the game. You got to chase down stolen cars, catch rockets in midair, and throw them at armored enemies, and just so much more while you swing through the city looking for trouble. They really had you walk a mile in Spider-Man spandex. And when your hands aren't full taking care of Spider-Man stuff, you get to experience some of Peter's stuff. Finding old backpacks full of mementos, taking photos of famous landmarks around Manhattan, and helping a friend accomplish research across the city to make it more livable for everyone. And this isn't even everything the game has to offer for side content. When it comes to the story, it is a magnificently crafted saga of a seasoned Spider-Man who takes on more responsibility than he can bear alone. Fantastically performed, well animated, and with main missions even more intricate than the side quests, it is easily the best on-screen Spider-Man story to date. Focus on Peter. Don't get it twisted. The first game took around 17 hours to complete and with around 30 hours to platinum, and the second game is a sequel to all of this, promising even more content than we have seen before. But if all of this isn't enough to convince you that the game is worth the cost, then maybe take a look at If the length of Spider-Man 2 is concerning to you, I am wondering if you've played any other story-driven game like this. Even if the rumors were true and the game only took about 15 hours to beat, then woohoo, it's just as long as every other game in its genre. The infamous games can be completed in about 15 hours each, 20 if you're looking for the platinum. The unbelievably underrated Guardians of the Galaxy takes about 17 hours to finish the main quest. The Arkham games, the games many people call the definitive superhero game, the games that many compare Marvel Spider-Man to in countless video essays and arguments online, takes anywhere from 12 to 15 hours to complete. Are you telling me that these games are less valuable because they're only 15 hours long, or does the quality of the game and the variety of playstyle justify its cost? Can the same thing not also be true for Spider-Man 2? Even if this was true and the story takes only 15 hours to complete, then it would be on par lengthwise with some of the most well-received games in its genre. So perhaps it isn't the length we should be as concerned with. All in all, 15 hours is still a considerable amount of time to play a game, so long as you aren't playing video games for 12 hours a day. I'm a husband and a father, my schedule is jam-packed. There are some nights where I only get about 2 hours of game time. So when I do play my games, I want to make sure I'm getting the most out of my time. That is where games like Insomniac's thrive. Both Spider-Man titles that Insomniac has released have been filled to the brim with things to do, see, hear, and explore. There's not a single second wasted from the time the game starts to the time the credits roll. Well, mostly. The world is overflowing with details that help bring it to life. The visual storytelling is crazy, from photos of Peter and his family, to little trinkets found across the map, to your social media feed. There's just so much that just adds layer after layer to the world and its characters that keep your focus. The audio logs you find help progress the story while keeping you on the move. Even when you are swinging through the city, you have phone calls to take that help fill the dead air, and point you either towards a main mission or a side mission. And the JJ podcast is not only hilarious, but helps the world feel lived in. Not once when I am moving between objectives do I feel at all bored. That quality of world building that just grabs your attention and refuses to let go is just one reason why the price point is justified. The performances are all top notch. Everyone who speaks sounds like an actual person and not like,
"A car just hit that girl. She needs to go to the hospital." The pain. Make it stop.
Even side characters have little lines they throw out at you as you pass them in the street. The game's performance has been relatively consistent as well. There are no game-breaking bugs, no glitches that ruin your overall enjoyment, or anything that prevents you from progressing in the story. As long as the level of quality is at least the same as the last two games, then there shouldn't be a problem paying full price for this one. Because really, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the value of games has been a topic that I have found really weird over the last few years, and especially when the price of first-party AAA games rose to $70. Is it unfortunate that you have to pay more for games? Yes, but is the price hike understandable? In a lot of cases, also yes. Games have gone up in price through the years, and with growing technology, it can sometimes be justified. Back in the PlayStation 2 days, big studio titles would cost around $50. Then when the PS3 came around, it increased to $60. Think of the technological leaps we have had since the PS3 days, where one of the best-looking games to come out was The Last of Us. For games that require much more advanced technology to produce and sometimes even larger staff to write and act and animate and code, then a slightly higher price point is perfectly understandable to accommodate the growing needs of the industry. Gamers should be considered lucky that they haven't felt the impact of inflation sooner. Game devs have done a great job at keeping game prices down for consumers for years while continuing to grow the quality of their product in looks, performance, and yes, even length. Let's look at the math. $1 in the year 2000, the year the PS2 was launched, is worth $1.78 today. If we were to take that $50 game from 2000 and apply the rate of inflation to it, we would be paying $89 for a video game. So we should praise the sun that we aren't paying $90 for video games today. Does that mean that every game that comes out should be $70? By no means. You should still take into account the level of development and quality of the game. There are some games released today that should absolutely not be sold for $70, since they are being made using the same methods and devices as a decade ago. But for studios that pump out a consistent quality game while also keeping up with the times as video games grow and evolve, then it is definitely worth it to pay that asking price. Please don't go up anytime sooner. But maybe Spider-Man 2 isn't your cup of tea. Maybe you prefer the FPS lobbies, or the side-scrolling platformer, or the open-world fantasy setting of games like Skyrim. If $70 is too high a price for you to pay for a game like Spider-Man 2, then don't do it. No one is forcing you. No one has a gun to your head. You can always wait for it to go on sale, split it with a friend, or just don't play it at all. But for fans of the first game, or newcomers to gaming, or people who like this style of game, $70 is a steal for all the new additions and improvements that are being made to the game as a whole. In conclusion, is Spider-Man 2 really going to be 15 hours long? Realistically, no. There's no solid proof of that. But even if it was, it would still be worth the full price of admission.